Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm Brenda Seiler, lifestyle reporter for the Washington Informer, and I'm filling in today for our regular host, Denise Rolark Barnes, publisher of the Washington Informer, and she is also co-executive producer of Win TV. She's in Nashville right now attending the summer conference of the National Newspaper Publishers Association. That's the umbrella organization for Black-owned publications, and we're glad to always be represented there. I hope that you have picked up the latest copy of the Washington Informer. And that's where we're covering all the news that is the news. One of the things we did this past last weekend, our staff went out on the Black Heritage Trail in Montgomery County. There is Black history all around us in this area. It was a great time for our staff and highly recommend that you all take that in. And if you haven't picked up a copy of the newspaper, it is available online at washingtoninformer.com. So take a moment to check out the newspaper and please share that with friends and family. We've got a full show today, and also I wanted to let you know about things that are going to be on the show today. We're going to hear an interview with our environmental reporter, Kayla Benjamin, who is going to be talking about some of the EPA's plans to cut pollution. We're also going to be talking to Sean Townsend, President and CEO of the Restaurant Association of Metropolitan Washington. They've got their awards program coming up. It's called the RAMMYs. And so we're going to hear all about that and let you know how you can attend that awards program as well. Shayna Taylor is here with Vino Wine Bar at the Harbor. This is a Black-owned business at National Harbor. We're going to see about sipping some wine. She's a sommelier, so we're going to talk to her. We're going to hear from Brittany Long of Black Girls Code, getting girls into technology, especially computers. And then we're going to wrap up with some hometown talent as we close out Black Music Month with Keith Kilgo, drummer and one of the founding members of the Blackbirds. So let's get into our interview with Kayla Benjamin. Our guest she's going to be talking with Almeda Cooper, National Manager of Health Equity at Moms Clean Air Force. And Almeda is going to be chatting with us again about what the EPA plans are forthcoming about cutting pollution. Kayla?
Hi, thanks so much for that introduction, Brenda, and thanks for joining us today, Almeda. I'm really excited to be here and to chat with you about some of the work that you're doing. So I guess, first of all, for those of us who aren't necessarily following the clean air space super closely right now, what is it that Moms Clean Air Force does, and what do you do there? And what are some of the big issues that you're dealing with right now?
Well, Moms Clean Air Force is a national organization of about 1.5 million moms, dads, and caregivers, and we're focused on protecting children's health and clean air. And we do that through our membership and through our field organizers who are in about 17 or 18 states and also in the District of Columbia. We really encourage our members to take action. That's our byline, that we want people to be in contact with, whether it's administrative agencies or local officials or federal officials, to let them know that this issue is important to us in terms of clean air and reducing pollution. And we have a special emphasis on making sure that there's justice in every breath, meaning that we really focus on making sure that the communities that are disproportionately harmed by pollution, Black and brown and low wealth communities, receive the attention and make sure that we try to reduce the harmful effects, health effects, particularly in those communities. And I'm the national manager for health equity, so I'm particularly focused on the relationship between climate and health, and particularly health equity, which unfortunately a lot of people just don't make that connection. But there have been a number of both local, national, and international studies and reports that say that climate change is the greatest existential threat to health over the next 50 years.
I know I had been hearing some chatter about an acronym MATS mercury and air toxic standards. And I was wondering if you could explain to me and to whoever's viewing what is that and why does it matter? Why are we talking about it right now?
Well, I think it's probably easiest to think in terms of the fact that the Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA, is responsible for enforcing the Clean Air Act. And underneath the Clean Air Act, there are a number of different pollutants that the EPA seeks to regulate. And in the last year, the EPA has had multiple regulations that they have been updating, which some had not been updated for quite a while, for at least 4 years. And with the MATS rule, the light duty and light cars and light duty vehicles, heavy duty vehicles, including electric school buses, and then the particle pollution and also power plants. There have been quite a few rules that have been up for public comment this year. So basically, what the EPA does is they look at the rules using their technical resources, and then they invite comments from everyone, from the public, regardless of whether you are a parent or an individual who's affected by bad air or lack of clean air, and invite people to let them know why this is important and how it's affecting them. From mom's standpoint, we very often, although we're not the technical experts, we do believe in science, and we get our members and to communicate to EPA, both in writing and in public testimony, to say this particular, for example, with mercury, this particular pollutant, this is how it affects people. This is typically what you find is that children, pregnant women, and people 65 years and older are the most harmed by any of these pollutants, and encourage the EPA to adopt the strongest possible standards.
You're a DMV resident, right?
Yes, I am.
So what is going on at the local level that people should know about when it comes to not just mercury and air toxics, but air pollution in general in our region, especially, right now it's top of mind after the code red alert yesterday?
Yeah, well, like many local municipalities or local areas, in DC, we do have a department that works with the EPA on environment, and they do post information regarding air quality. So as you just mentioned, unfortunately, yesterday we had an unhealthy state, a red alert, which is one of it is a status where the air is so unhealthy that basically you either need to have on a mask or you should stay indoors. And I know from some of the articles that you've written that locally we've seen some of the baseball games were postponed. Children who were in summer camp had restricted activities just because the quality of the air was so poor that it was not really safe. That's an unhealthy state of the air, particularly the last several days. The 29th was an orange day. The 29th was a red code. The day before that was orange, and I believe we're back to orange today. But still, all of those are caution states that really, the only positive about the seriousness of the weather, it has made people aware of and begin thinking about that we really need to be concerned about the quality of our air.
Are there specific issues locally that Mom's Clean Air Force has been involved in terms of, I don't know, specific plants or issues that are really local to the DMV?
Well, the main thing that we are facing in the DMV is traffic. Transportation sector is responsible for about 1/4 to a third of all pollution, air and climate pollution. And as anyone knows who lives here in the DMV, we have lots of traffic. So that is unlike some other parts of the country where they have power plants that are in the near vicinity, transportation is really our big concern. And that's one of the reasons that Mom's Clean Air Force has been such an advocate for electric vehicles and for electric school buses in particular, because of our focus on children.
What are some of the main health impacts that come from those the traffic-related air pollution, and also what are some of the equity implications of where in the district and nationally we've decided to put our highways and stuff?
Well, asthma with children, asthma is the leading chronic disease for children in the United States, and it's true here in the DMV as well. And when the air quality is poor, it's even more difficult for any child or any adult, for that matter, who's suffering with asthma. And I'm sorry, could you repeat what the second part of that question was?
I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about the equity implications of
Yes.
transportation infrastructure.
So one of the problems is that very often the neighborhoods that are closest to high traffic areas are low wealth Black and brown communities. That is the nature of the historical legacy that we have from racism and from the unfortunate policies such as redlining, where Black and brown people were forced into to reside in certain communities. And those communities tend to be closest to highways, closest to places where heavy duty vehicles are parked and where they idle. And so all of that exhaust is, in a concentration in these neighborhoods. So also in the Biden administration, you may be aware of, and some of your listeners and readers may be aware of, that the Biden administration has had a policy called Justice 40, where we're really trying to reduce the disproportionate impact on these communities of policies throughout the government. And in regard to air pollution and to what the EPA is doing, in terms of trying to strengthen many of these standards that are underneath the Clean Air Act, is to make sure that these communities have a voice in making sure that the standards are strengthened and that people are aware that they are being have health harms that are directly related. So asthma is probably the number one thing that most people are familiar with, but they also can affect anyone with any type of pre-existing condition that would compromise their health. And in particular, you also will find out that there is an impact, people who have cardiovascular disease as well, heart disease.
Right. How can people get involved if they're listening to this and maybe looking out the window, seeing all the haze and thinking, oh man, we really should do something about this?
Well,
What do you recommend?
The simplest thing to do is to come to our website at www.momscleanairforce.org. That's www.momscleanairforce.org. And we have a wealth of resources and materials. We have the ability where you can link up if you are not in the DMV, for example, and you just wanted to find out where there is a mom's field coordinator, or just to get we have a resource library so you can find out any information you want to have. And also, we want to encourage you to be in contact with your local officials. We always have petitions that you can access on our website, and we make it very easy for you to be able to have that your comment or your sign-on sent directly to your affected local official.
Amazing. Is there anything we haven't covered today that you think it's really important for our listeners to know about in terms of what Mom's Clean Air Force is doing and the air pollution that affects their lives?
Well, one of the number one kind of barriers to really taking action regarding pollution, regarding clean air, is that even though there are many studies that show that the majority of the people in this country are in favor of clean air, are in favor of protecting the health of children, we don't talk about it enough. And one of the very first steps that you have to take is be informed and then talk about and let other people know what your concerns are. Not only your elected officials, but also talk to your friends and neighbors. And of course, we encourage people to join Mom's Clean Air Force because we believe we're very effective in raising these issues and making sure they get in front of our elected officials.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to chat with you, Almeda, and I hope we have you on again to talk about air pollution going forward. I'm sure, unfortunately, that we're going to see more air pollution stories come in going forward, especially this summer with the wildfires in Canada.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Kayla. That was a really helpful and informative interview with Almeda Cooper. I'm glad to see that they're involved and they've got great information to share with our listeners and our viewers. So thank you, and I hope we can learn more from her in the future.
Thanks so much, Brenda.
Thank you again, you all, for being here. This is WIN TV. I'm Brenda Seiler. I'm filling in for our regular host, Washington Informer publisher, Denise Rolock Barnes. We've got a number of segments today that we know that you'll be interested in. Wanted to make you aware of the fact that even though we didn't have our news roundup at the beginning of the show, we encourage you to go to our website, WashingtonInformer.com, because we are keeping up with the Supreme Court decisions that have been going on. We're giving it to you from a different perspective, perhaps from what you're looking for or you've heard. But again, that's WashingtonInformer.com. And one of our inserts for this month in today's paper, in this week's paper, is The Bridge. That's our insert that is once a month for millennials. We've got a lot of interesting things going on there and comments, photos, articles, and I encourage you again, pick up the latest edition of the Washington Informer and get all the news. We've got coming up next Sean Townsend, who is the president and CEO of the Restaurant Association of Metropolitan Washington. They are coming up with their 41st RAMMY's Awards. The RAMMY's are the awards that are given out to those in the restaurant industry. You know, it's been a little bit challenging for eating out, eating in, takeout, whatever, since we've been going through the pandemic. And restaurants are still trying to recover. And we have to take a look at what the Restaurant Association of Metropolitan Washington is doing to support eating establishments. And so that's who we're going to go to next. If Sean is... Wow, that was last year's RAMMY's 2022. I was there. I'm so glad they didn't show me. So we're here with Sean Townsend, President and CEO of the Restaurant Association of Metropolitan Washington. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you for having me. We got to make sure we include you in the reel next time. So we'll get you this year.
It was a wonderful celebration, and it always is a wonderful celebration. But, you know, things have had to change recently. You and a lot of restaurants, you all were supportive of restaurants when everyone had to pivot in terms of how the pandemic impacted eating establishments. But things are bouncing back. Talk a little bit about what you all have done to support restaurants as they're trying to come back strong.
Yeah, I mean, the RAMMY's, as you mentioned, it's a time where we highlight and honor the industry in a number of different categories. We have about 20 categories where we highlight the excellence. As you know, DC, the DMV region, we have a diverse culinary cuisine here. You can pretty much find anything these days. And so this is a moment where we pause and highlight the industry in a way that no other region does in the country. And like you mentioned, we've had to pivot a number of times over the past couple of years, and we've also had to change some of the categories in which we award our award recipients. So, you know, over the years, especially during the pandemic, you've seen best streetery, best takeout, just to highlight how the industry has changed as a result of the times. And you'll see the categories continue to evolve this time around as well, where we have now included 5 public voting categories. We've added Best Bar to it. So the public had an opportunity to vote on these category on the nominees, and they've also had the opportunity to vote on the winners of these categories. And in this area, you do not have to be a member of the Restaurant Association in order to be nominated or to win. So this is one way that we are intentionally trying to recruit new members to the association.
And the event is July 9th at the Walter Washington Convention Center.
That's right.
And talk about how anybody in the city, in the metro area, can come and attend that event.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely open to the public. Although it is an industry event, we tend to see lots of people from the public who love restaurants, who are foodies, bloggers. You can definitely go to the Rammys.org and purchase a ticket. So I look forward to seeing lots of folks there.
One of the things that I do as a lifestyle reporter for the Washington Informer is to do restaurant reviews. So I visited some new places that have opened in recent years and some that have been established for a while. But one of the things that I have come across is that one of the things our restaurants are still always looking for are staff. And I think our viewing and listening audience needs to know there are jobs out there with the restaurants in the metro area, and think about that. And I know that you're working with restaurants to make sure that they're marketing themselves properly, not only for diners, but as good employers.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, Rammys is a huge deal, but that is not all that we do here at RAMW. And training, providing training for our members is one of our key areas. Like you said, providing that marketing 101 training, just providing ways that our businesses, our food retailers can sharpen their knives and sharpen their businesses in order to best serve the public. Focusing on a pipeline. We've seen many employees in the industry during the pandemic and afterwards leave the area, go back to school, change professions. And now, although we are continuing to talk about ways to retain the staff that we have and find ways to elevate the staff that we have, it is critical at this time for us to look at ways to create the next pipeline of workers. And not just we want people to know that it's not just a place where you can come make some extra cash. There are some really good positions, really good jobs in this industry, and you can make a career out of it. So, and it starts in high school, it starts in college, and that's what we're focusing on by creating a new pipeline in the industry.
And one of the things that I enjoyed this year with the nominees and just hyping up the Rammys, you've had some wonderful reels on Instagram. I love those. And not only are you showing the patrons having a good time, you're showing the staff enjoying what they're doing. And you recently had a bar event where, it was cocktails and drinks and everything. So I think it's very great the way you're bringing people in. Again, it's a wonderful marketing strategy that you're showing.
Yeah, we do a big nominations reception. This year was at the Hamilton Live in the basement, and some of the nominees were able to display their cocktails, their food options, and like you said, yeah, we've gotten very strategic about our marketing. Shout out to the team, and we highlight RMW and the Rammys and our members in different ways, whether it's Pride Month or Juneteenth or any of the other events that folks in town are celebrating. We try to be inclusive to those days as well, and market the association and the things that we are doing to help the industry.
One of the things that I've noticed also around the metro area that is really piggybacking, for lack of a better term, with what you all do in terms of profiling different restaurants, you're seeing neighborhood and county-oriented restaurant weeks. You know, PG County has one in Fairfax, right near where I live in Silver Spring in Montgomery County. They have had one. Do you interact with those? Do you support those? It seems like a wonderful way to continue to build up knowledge and attract people to dine out a little more.
Anything that is promoting seats and butts, I mean, butts and seats
Yes.
at restaurants, we're all for it. So, yes, we have in the past supported some of the smaller, more local restaurant weeks. Of course, you know, RMW's Restaurant Week, you know, we promote is in the slowest months of the year for restaurants, which is August and January. And we're currently advertising Restaurant Week now for August. We've got about 200 restaurants in the region signed up, and yeah, so we definitely support other restaurant weeks as well. But we try to recruit those same restaurants for ours as well. But no, anything to promote restaurants in the region, we are all for it.
Well, it's good to know that in August, late summer, there will be your restaurant week. So people need to keep an eye out on that and check out your social media to make sure that they know the dates that that's going to occur. Can you talk a little bit about new restaurants coming in town and making sure they know about the Restaurant Association of Metropolitan Washington and that they need to join? I thought when you said that to even be a contender for the RAMMYs, you don't have to be a member of the Restaurant Association. So that in itself is a good, wonderful recruitment tool. If
Right.
you know, think of it as that way. What are some of the other things that you're doing to bring people in? Because I don't think that a lot of restaurants know about all the benefits beyond the RAMMYs. You mentioned workshops and ongoing training. I think that's so important to make sure that restaurants have a long run.
That's right, and we want to be that platform to help businesses, specifically food retailers in the region. Uh, you know, the most important priority for me is meeting our operators where they are, and most times they're in the kitchen or in the restaurant. And so, you know, over the past couple months since I've taken over the organization, I've spent a lot of time in restaurants, whether it's big or small. You know, I was just at Philippe Chow last night, new restaurant that just opened at the Wharf. I went to see Chef Ramsay cut the ribbon and asked him to join the association myself.
Yes.
I've met with you know, there's a group of Black operators who meet you know, once a month to talk about challenges and share information. I've been meeting with them as well. So I've been focused on meeting folks where they are and explaining the benefits of the association and encouraging them to be involved. We're in the middle of a legislative battle. We are advocating downtown at the Wilson Building in DC for, you know, with tip wages and service charges, and just having discussions with elected officials across the region on how we can support the restaurant industry is our mission. And we need our operators to be just as involved as we are, because as you know, it is one thing for me to advocate, but it is another thing for our operators to advocate for themselves. And we feel as though our elected officials need to hear from them. So you know, it's an opportunity for operators to get involved in a number of ways. And I've been, you know, focused on sharing that message with everybody that I can.
Sean Townsend, President and CEO of the Restaurant Association of Metro Washington, thank you for being with us. Again, the RAMMYs, July 9th at the Convention Center. Check out the social media for the RAMMYs, for the Restaurant Association of Metropolitan Washington, because you want to be there.
Right.
Thanks again, Sean.
Thank you.
We thank Sean for that. And we're going to go to our next interview right now. We're going to hear about the Blackbirds and their 50th anniversary.
The Blackbirds, formed in 1973 as part of jazz trumpeter Dr. Donald Byrd's brainchild to expose college students to the real world of music. In his own words, to bridge the gap between academia and the real world. Byrd envisioned taking active students at Howard University in Washington, D.C. on a real-world field trip, which would expose them to the ins and outs of the music business. The Blackbird.
Okay.
Can you see me?
I can see you. Every superhero needs a theme music. That that would be Rockery Park.
Yes.
Keith Gilgo, welcome to Win TV. Thank you so much for being here, and congratulations on the 50th anniversary of the Blackbirds.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Brenda, for having me. It's our pleasure, always.
And for our audience, full disclosure, there's a lot of Coolidge Colts people, because that's where Keith went to high school. We're classmates. Denise
Yes.
Rolock Barnes, our publisher, is a Coolidge Colt. I believe
right.
Chevry, our co-executive producer, is out of Coolidge.
Mhm.
Our marketing and advertising director went to Coolidge for a while, Ron Burke. So this is Colt country.
There you
Here
go.
at the Washington Informer. So this is wonderful. This is wonderful, the 50th anniversary. What does this mean for you and the group?
It means that we have a lot of work to do. We made it 50 years. I hopefully can make it 50 more. That'd really be interesting. But anyway, no, it's a great accomplishment. We've been through a lot as far as musicians and the music business and the changing in the music. Because you have to realize when we came into the business, rap music really hadn't taken off. I mean, there was the what my favorite group, not Gil Scott. With the three guys. Anyway, Last Poets,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, rap music really hadn't taken hold quite yet. And unfortunately, we came before the 80s. Of course, in the 80s, you know that Mr. Reagan took all of that out of public schools, particularly schools in our communities. So that opened the door, because we are, as Black people, we are super creative. So we're going to make some way out of no way. And so boom boxes and breakdancing and all of that stuff came as a result of no music offered in public schools. So we had to make that change as musicians, because we were basically, came up in R&B, jazz, rock and roll era, pretty much, with the 60s and 70s and with Motown and all of that stuff. So we were influenced, of course, by those musics and how to write like that and how to produce music in that vein. And then it changed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then that mighty computer with the little buttons on it changed the whole ballgame, which is great. I mean, it's a challenge. The hardest part for musicians is to change. And usually what happens is as Miles Davis did many times in his career, is he's surrounded himself by younger musicians who were more on top of what was going on presently.
And so that's kind of what Donald Byrd did, because he was on the faculty at Howard University. As you and I spoke before, he had a vision of doing something that was different. And that's how the Blackbirds came about. Yeah,
his whole modus operandi, so to speak, was to bridge the gap between academia and the real world, so that musicians, much like athletes, they are recruited from ankle biters all the way through college to go to the pros. And music, in jazz particularly, doesn't really get that kind of lineage. And so his goal was to bridge that gap, have some young college students to take them on this long extended field trip around the world a couple of times. I don't remember signing a permission slip, but I guess it was okay. And he was able to introduce us to the production of music, how to edit, what the studio looks like, what a royalty statement is. Oh my gracious, how to get paid in this business. And so that was his goal, and we were the bearers of that of his vision, so to speak.
Well, what our viewers and listeners need to know is that with the 50th anniversary being celebrated about the Blackbirds, you all are putting on a concert at the historic Howard Theater on July the 7th. That's next week.
Right.
So talk about that. What can we expect from that event?
Just to an update, some of those dates have changed a little bit, but they will be on our calendar as those changes go. You know how the business is. We move things around. But yes, we will be on tour starting this next month, in the week and a half.
Yeah, next the 7th. You're going to still be at the Howard on the 7th?
7th, 8th. The Howard has been postponed.
Okay.
It's going to be, and what's we're going to do? We're going to put we're going to do it on the 27th of January, 2024, which is 3 days before my 70th birthday.
Okay, so it's a combination of the celebrating the Blackbirds and your birthday. That's what that's going to be.
Yes.
We will update our listeners and our viewers and folks that come to the Washington Informer website about that new date. So thanks for giving us the information on that.
Yes.
But let's talk about the composition of the group now, because you on drums and Joe Hall on bass are the only two original members that are still a part of the group.
Yes, Joe and we've been playing together. Orville Saunders is also an original member, but he's not playing with us anymore. And Kevin Toney, who lives in Los Angeles. But yes, Joe and I are the two amigos left. But we are surrounded by some wonderfully talented musicians: Marshall Keys on saxophone, Thad Wilson on trumpet, Sean Anthony on percussion, Roberto Villeda on keyboards. I said that right.
Yes.
And Paul Spires, just Paul, was one of my students at Anacostia Senior High School.
Wow.
Charles Wright on guitar. So we have a loaded host of talented musicians that have been so brave to work with me, because I work them pretty hard. But it's about the music, and they love it. We loving it, and so we're on tour. We're going to be in Pittsburgh, Philly, and all that stuff as well. So we'll be in the area on the East Coast, which is really kind of where the Blackbirds really got started. Even though we recorded in Berkeley, California, most of our gigs were Detroit, Chicago, New Jersey, New York, Philly, and so on and so forth.
And then you all also tour in Europe, and and again, chatting with you and Joe, the success in Europe for you all has been amazing, and the way you still have a strong fan base in Europe. Talk about that.
Yeah, well, the UK, France, Germany, Spain, Italy, all of those wonderful places, they really dig into music, in Europe. And I think it stemmed from the fact that in many years ago, we went over to the UK in 1976. And I think at that time, they only had one radio station, or two, maybe the BBC One and the BBC Two. So basically, people relied on live music and recordings. So we would play a concert. We played at a place called the Odeon Hammersmith in London. And when we came out to do stuff with the, sign autographs, they came with bags of albums because they collect records because, again, there wasn't a whole lot of radio, a lot of media that provided that type of music. So people went out and sought it out. So consequently, they still live in that same thing. They love live music. So when we play in London, we play in Paris and those places, we always have a wonderfully sold out audience.
In addition to the Blackbirds, you are still a school teacher. And we're going to be wrapping up shortly, but I just think it's wonderful that you're able to blend the two.
Yeah, it's a challenge. But I'm at Friendship Public Charter School Tech Prep, which is right down the street from the Washington Informer. and Ward 8, and I have a wonderful principal and vice principal and staff and so on and so forth, who recognize that music is an integral part of the development of our young people, and that to be able to play an instrument, to be able to read music, to be able to compose music, to understand the history, just to know that jazz started in the church. Okay, they're not really hip to that. Knowing all these things that go with their heritage is very vital. And of course, I teach. Of course, I'm a historian, and I teach that, and I make them play and fingering and all that good stuff, because it really just gives them another avenue, another opportunity to be able to have something to do after school, before school, on the weekends. And I took a group of kids out to Omega Studios a couple of months ago to show them how they record, what a nano Weber is, what microphone ambience, blah 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 blah, all that wonderful stuff. Because you never know; these are careers, and that's what I'm so happy about.
Well, I appreciate you instilling the heritage of our music with your students, because that too is a part of Black history, which means it's a part of American history.
Yes,
so thank you for that. And thank you for being with us today. Again, I just want to make sure that our audience knows that the concert that was scheduled for July 7th at the Howard Theater will be July 27th. We will post the website
January
for the Blackbirds, because not only will the tour dates be there, you'll have all the history and all the music from the Blackbirds available to you as well.
Absolutely.
And so thank you, Keith, very much. I really appreciate it. And thank you for allowing us to sit in on your rehearsal a couple of weeks ago. That was a lot of fun. So take care and keep the rhythm going.
Yes,
thank you so very much.
Okay.
That was great. I know that a lot of our listeners are really, really fond of the hometown talent that are the Blackbirds. So we're so pleased that Keith, drummer and one of the founding members in the group, was with us today. We're going to get now to a new venture that is out at National Harbor. We're going to talk to Shayna Taylor, and she is the owner and sommelier for Vino Wine Bar at the Harbor. Wow. And look at your background. You look gorgeous, and the background is gorgeous. Shayna, thank you so much for being with us today on WIN TV.
Thanks for having me, Brenda. I'm super excited to be on WIN TV. And yes, this is the luxury that I'm afforded every single day. I decided to give you guys my backdrop here at National Harbor.
Well, that's a reason in itself to come out and sip some wine with you. Thank you so much for the business. Tell us about how the concept for your wine bar came about.
Well, the funniest thing is that there was no concept when it started. I was studying wine simply because I was traveling the world and enjoying myself. And one day I was just awakened with the call to open the wine bar. God woke me up and said, open a wine bar. It wasn't something that I was thinking about doing. And I guess for once, I actually listened to the call. And it wasn't until I got into the bar that I realized that the purpose for me really was to introduce wines and varietals and a whole new culture to the people of Prince George's County who had never seen anything like it before.
Well, I know that I like wine every now and then, but most of us, let me not make an assumption. Most of us may not understand how to either match wine with foods. Some of the old standards of how to match wines with food have been broken down. So there's more of an opportunity, I think, to experiment and try some new things. How do you work with the clientele that comes into Vino in terms of maybe coaching them to try some new things?
Right, you're absolutely correct, Brenda. One of the key things that we try to do here at Vino, part of our experience is the wine education piece. Because like you mentioned, most people don't have wine as a part of their background and their culture. It's new, it's more contemporary for a lot of us. So what I try to do is I try to do a lot of education and making people feel comfortable in the realm of learning. because oftentimes wine lists and wine menus and people who've been doing it for so long can tend to be a little snobbish, and they make you feel a bit uncomfortable when you're just getting into learning it. So what I do is I start with a menu that's simplified. It's a little bit easier. It's not full of a lot of information in words that people can not pronounce unless you're French or even you speak Italian. So I start with the menu, simplifying it, and then the menu also has some talking points, some speaking point. It'll tell you what to expect, what the aromas are, what the flavors are, to kind of help judge and kind of help guide you toward where you should be. But the key for me is just making it approachable and making it fun.
One of the things that I that helped me, I think it was the year that I graduated from college. I dated a guy that worked at a very high end wine store, and that's how I got oriented to it. And then most recently, I met a woman from California. She has a vineyard, a Black woman who has her vineyard, and she has her own set of wines, and she did wine tastings. And that was a wonderful experience. And so when people come in, I heard you mention the menus and really kind of uh, information on the menu that talks about the wines, but can you talk about maybe some of the foods that you might have at Vino, and how you work with the patrons that come in to talk about matching foods with different wines?
We have a tasting menu. So similar to what you had mentioned, you can come in here to Vino, and then we have tasting flights where you can try different wines. So along with that, we have small bites. Our menu will typically pair with the different wines that we carry. So we do charcuterie trays. So we'll have meats and cheeses, vegetables and fruits that match and pair, and we walk through that as well. We've got flatbreads, which are going to have a bunch of different ingredients that are going to really kick the flavor of the wine off. But in addition to that, we host wine dinners. And so at the wine dinners, we'll specifically pair regional wines with regional foods, because what we tend to say in the wine business is if it grows together, it goes together. So we may have a pizza event, and then with that event, we'll have a bunch of different Italian wines that are going to pair specifically with the pizzas that we serve. A couple of weeks ago, we held a huge high-end champagne event. So we brought out champagnes that were probably $200, $300 a bottle. And I paired it with fried chicken, just because I know that's not the norm, but I'm definitely reaching out and trying to do something different. It's not the norm, but it pairs perfectly together. And
Right,
most people had no clue until we did it.
right. It doesn't have to be a beer with the fried chicken.
Now, pizza goes
talk,
perfectly. I mean,
talk
pizza
about the
goes with champagne, potato chips go great with champagne, and then fried chicken goes great with champagne.
Okay. Talk about the capacity of Vino. How many people can get in there? And when you talked about the champagne event, it sounded like maybe you was that a private event? Did you close down for that particular event that you were hosting?
So we have inside and outside. So we're lucky enough to be able to house people in both sections. So on the inside, we can seat and host about 85. Our outside
Okay.
patio, seated, we can host 100, and then a combination of standing and seated, we can hold up to 150. So it was a beautiful night when we did the champagne event. So we did it outside. It was pretty much, we did the tickets in advance. And so our wine club members always get a chance to purchase tickets first. And then we open the sales up to the general public. So we had a good amount of people. It was still small and intimate, but we remained open at the same time because we want everybody to get a chance to experience the experience. And so they kind of got a chance to peek in from the outside, and they know they want to sign up next time.
But I think that's wonderful to know what your capacity is, because some people maybe want to bring maybe a chapter of their sorority or their alumni association, or have a party, a birthday, private kind of where you can section off a part of the venue. And that sounds really good. And talk a little bit about, what about the price ranges? Prices can go anywhere, and people kind of want to know, well, what can I expect to do for a certain amount of money? And I'm sure when they call you to make reservations, you can help guide them through that process.
Yeah, and that's a part of the learning process, Brenda, right? So what we do is it's about inclusion. A big part of our mission is about making sure we can include and educate as many people as we can. So I have wines that span in price range. So you might be able to you can start off in Chile and you might have a wine that may be $11, $12 a glass. And then we can take you all the way to Bordeaux or Burgundy where you're going to spend 35 and up on a bottle or glass of wine. But the goal is to get as much wine in as many hands so that people can try it and taste it. So we really used our pricing in the pricing model. We wanted to make sure it also worked on our diversity and our inclusion.
I've always been partial to German white wine, so I look forward to coming out to
So you like a
Vino.
good Riesling, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we
Yeah.
have several.
Okay, good. We'll do a flight of those. So, so thank you, Shana. We've been talking to Shana Taylor, who is the owner of Vino at the Harbor. She's the sommelier. You've heard her talk about all these wines, so she knows her stuff. And she'll be the one to help you there and guide you, she and her team, to a wonderful affair to have there at Vino at the Harbor. Thank you. And that's National Harbor, people. That's where Shana is. Oh my God. And then she's going to tease us with a glass of wine.
Well, I have to do a cheers before in the interview. Otherwise, you wouldn't trust my judgment.
I trust you. Thank you so very much. And all the best to Vino. Thank you for being with us today on Win
Thank
TV.
you so much. Thank you. Take care. Thank you.
Bye. Okay. Why did she tease us with that wine at the end? Oh my God. What a seller. What a marketeer. Good for you, Shana. Thank you for being with us, Shana. And now we're going to get into a conversation, a STEM conversation, a technology conversation with Black Girls Code. I'm so excited that we're going to have Brittany Long chat with us this afternoon. And let's talk about what Black Girls Code is. She's going to tell us about that. They're all over the country. And I hope you get a clue of what they are just by the name of the organization. They are about getting girls into computers, coding, technology. And so thank you, Brittany Long, who is the program manager, for being with us today.
We are Black Girls Code. We are a safe space for Black girls to dream, create, and inspire each other. We teach girls the skills to code their own futures and give them the courage to build their own lanes. We see their genius, we support their vision, and we let them write their own scripts and tell their own stories. We are Black Girls Code. Our programs build confidence. Here, Black girls embrace technology as creators, thinkers, influencers, and leaders. Our many chapters, events, camps, hackathons, and alumni support are changing the face of tech. Through the work of our dedicated staff and volunteers, our generous partners and friends, fierce young girls become future tech bosses. We are Black Girls Code. The opportunity gap for women and girls of color is closing, and we're just getting started.
Hello, Brittany. Brittany Long is with us. She's the program manager of Black Girls Code, and welcome to Win TV. We're so excited to hear what you're going to be doing with the summer camp that's coming up. So tell us all about it.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, Brenda. Firstly, I want to thank you for sharing your platform with me today and giving me the chance to spread awareness and spread the word about my program, about my organization. I am a Howard University alum. So if you would have told me as a freshman in a Harriet Tubman quadrangle, I would be here, I would not believe you.
Well, we welcome you. We welcome you, and congratulations for being here and what you're doing.
Thank you. So Black Girls Code, yes, we're a nonprofit organization that serves to eliminate the digital divide by exposing young girls of color to the tech industry. We do that through various programs in person and virtual, but specifically during the summer, we run 4 programs in 4 cities that are 2-week summer camps. I'm excited we're coming back to DC. So I'll give you all the details on what that summer camp looks like. It's a 2-week project-based program. The girls are introduced to like fundamentals of coding, the languages, and through that, they're able to create projects that are digital art, and this year specifically animation. And we offer prizes, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place for a little incentive and motivation and a little healthy competition. But the camp happens Monday through Friday for 2 weeks from 7:10 to 7:21. It'll be at Digital Pioneers Academy. And not only do they get instruction during the day, but there are community builders, icebreakers. I've seen girls make best friends. I've seen parents meet and become friends themselves. And also we give opportunities to college students to teach. So we're not only providing access to young girls, but we're also providing employment opportunities to college students. And what else? They get to meet industry professionals. They get to become a part of our community. And I'm just really excited we're coming back to the district.
I am thrilled that you're here because as we were talking in the pre-show, I thought I was going to go into computer science. I took computer science courses. I learned how to program, do all of that good stuff, but my path went another way. And I think we also know there's a history of diverting girls from some STEM careers and really targeting male students in that direction. So to me, with what Black Girls Code is doing and the fact that you have chapters all around the country, you are empowering young women to really pursue this career because it's an important career. There's longevity to the career. And I commend you for that. And I need that STEM T-shirt that you got. We need to talk about that. But the fact that you're coming into town, will that just be for young girls that are in a chapter of Black Girls Code? How can people get more information about it if there's still an opportunity to register?
Registration is still open. It's on Eventbrite and it's also in our portal, which you can find on our website and our Instagram page. But you do not have to already be a part of our community and our programs. It is for the public. It is for people who have never heard of us or for people who are returners. There is an Eventbrite form. We also provide scholarships if you aren't able to afford it. The camp is $100. Which isn't too bad for 2 weeks of coding instruction. We feed the girls. My girls in my program tell me I should lead with that. Kids like that you feed them. We feed the girls 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and snacks. It's $100, but if you apply through a Google form, our scholarship application, we give 75% scholarship. So families could pay as little as $25 for the 2-week program.
And what are the dates again for the camp?
July 10th to July 21st. And then at the end of the camp, parents get to come and watch their final presentations. There's a photo booth. It is really a big deal. It's my favorite time of year, really.
And really one wrap-up question. Do you have an idea of how many, with all the chapters of Black Girl Code, how many young women are members of the program nationwide? Do you have a sense of that?
That number is ever changing. We are actually launching our summer camp in South Africa this year. For the first time. So the number I once knew last year, which were, in the thousands, it has changed. South Africa summer camp is also happening in July. We don't only do summer camp, so that number also includes the after school programs I run in the spring and the fall and the winter, which we just did one in DC at Girls Global Academy that ended in May. We do workshops and one-day workshops. Some of them are recurring, virtual workshops. And so there are people who are joining us from their computers at home. There are girls who are joining us in after school programs at their schools, and there are girls traveling to our summer camps. And so that number is ever changing. Our goal is to teach 1 million girls code by 2040. I don't think we're too ambitious or overzealous. I think we can do it. We have 15 chapters right now in the country and one in South Africa. And so that number is changing by like the second.
We need to make sure that we get that website up again. Somebody did a comment that they would like to sponsor a young girl for the camp this year. And one of your students, Mamadou, just gave us his comment. So Thank you so much. This is wonderful. This is absolutely wonderful. Congratulations. Good luck with the summer camp. And we'd like to keep in touch with you because this is a wonderful entree into a career that is very important in all aspects of business. So thank you so much, Brittany.
Thank you for having me. Miss Brenda, I need you at my programs talking to my girls. You're important. I need those stories, okay?
Yes, yes. We're talking about when I was a young student in college and doing computers myself. Happy to do that. We will be in touch. And thank you, Brittany Long, for being with us. Black Girls Code, doing wonderful things for young girls. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Well, that's our show this week. Thank you. Come back next Friday when our regular host, Denise Rollock Barnes, will be here. As I said at the beginning, she is at a conference right now. Also, be safe this weekend. As some of you are already going to start your 4th of July holiday, maybe right after you tune out of this show and get it going. But remember the air quality. We're having challenges with the air quality. Don't overexert yourself. Come out to parades. There'll be some parades on Capitol Hill and in the Palisades community. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Be safe out there. Thank you. This has been Brenda Seiler.